Thank you. As he said, my name's Jay Francis. I'm going to let the panel do all the talking today because I've about lost my voice in this 2-week cold that's going on. But I am the Executive Vice President of Corporate Affairs in Miller Family Philanthropy. I've been with the Larry Miller Group for 34 years. I spent 22 years at the Jazz, and 2 years before that with Sam Battistone in the Jazz. So I was there when Larry bought the team, and we could talk for hours about when we had a staff of 13. We have more coaches than that now. So it's been a great ride, and it's been fun to be part of the Larry Miller family. I also work with all the philanthropy for Gail personally. I'm the executive director of the Family Foundation and president of Larry Miller Charities, which is our corporate and employee giving arm. And we have 2 education foundations as well. So I'm going to ask the panelists to just quickly go down the line and take 15 seconds and introduce themselves, and then we'll come back, and they all have some prepared remarks, and that's going to make my part really easy. But just let's go right down the line. We'll start with Jeff.
My name's Jeff Miller. I'm a general manager of Mark Miller Subaru, Midtown and Southtown.
I'm Jennifer Hu. I'm CEO and the president of a small business called InnoSys, and we are a neighbor of Columbus Center.
I'm Safia Keller, and I'm the Chief Employment Development Officer at Columbus Community Center.
I'm Beth Whisamore. I'm an executive director working at Zions Bank and Human Resources.
I'm Jamee Rawlings Beus. I work here at Zions Bank, and I worked with Columbus to get my job here at Zions.
Thank you. As Brian said in his keynote address, make new friends, and I've already done that. I'm already looking forward to making more. I have one in the room, 2, since Wayne's here and Spencer's here. But so I'm looking forward to get more friends. Jeff. I had the chance to sell our Subaru dealership. Steve Stark sold the dealership. I sold the real estate, but to the Miller family. And there's no relationship between Mark and Kathy Miller and Larry and Gail Miller. In fact, the Larry H. Miller in the name of our dealerships became because of your grandfather, who was Laurie Miller. If you're old enough to remember Laurie Miller Pontiac, what a great, great guy. See how advertising sticks. So Larry Miller put H in his name so that to differentiate. And I have a chance to work with Mark and Kathy Miller on a couple of boards and committees, and they're just great people. And it's been a great relationship. So I'm going to announce what each of our panelists are going to cover. And then I've already thought of a couple of questions, but Jeff is going to talk about integrating social corporate responsibility in a way that creates positive change in the workplace and the community. Jennifer will address how research and best practices maximize neurodiversity in the workplace. Safia will address collaborations that are redefining neurodiversity in the workplace. Beth, how implementing diversity best practices make a difference. And Jamie, diversity and disabilities, a success story. So we'll just start right down the row. Start with you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So Mark Miller Subaru, so we're a 4th generation car business, not a car dealership. In the Subaru world, they don't call us dealerships, we're car retailers. But it goes into the social responsibility aspect as well, too. But we started back in the 30s with my family, and then we continued to my dad, who was the 3rd generation of it, who started the Subaru and Toyota franchises. But I learned from a very early age the importance of social responsibility, the importance of giving back, the importance of being part of the community. My parents, Mark and Kathy, incredible role models in this way, still to this day is what they do. In retirement, both of them are still not retired. Instead of working on businesses, they're working on nonprofits, which has done so much impact for this community. But I've looked at it as my responsibility to take the companies, the 2 Subaru stores I run every day, and continue that legacy of what they've created. Subaru is interesting in that fact that they're a great partner in this, is that we're very lucky in who we've partnered with as a franchise to have a corporate group back in New Jersey is where they're based out of, that believes in the same things we do. About 7-8 years ago, they developed something nationally. Tom Dahl, who's the president of Subaru, an incredible human being, created what he calls the Subaru Love Promise. And what the Subaru Love Promise is setting out to his 628 franchises across the country that you're more than a company, that you have a responsibility to your community every day to give back and make sure that community thrives. And they've done that, and they've supported it nationally with not only with money, but with people, with personnel, with programs, with ways that they can teach us how to do it better. We were lucky that we were doing it already. So all it did for us is just put a brand on it. So we put a brand, and we've taken what they've done nationally and really expanded on that through going deep with our partners versus just going shallow. So what we've done with it is we've called it our Love Promise Partners, and we actually do a full, as a car dealership, this is pretty unique to pretty much any car dealership in the country, we actually do a grant process with our stuff. Every year we go out to all the nonprofits in the community and say, we're looking for our 5 or 6 Love Promise partners. And there's responsibility from the nonprofit and responsibility for us to, our goal with that isn't just to give you money. We don't want to just give the nonprofit money and say, hey, do what you got to do with it. Was we want to know what our money's going to do and what our time's going to do. So our goal is not to just give money, but we want to go deep with these organizations and not only give them money, give them personnel, give them volunteers, but we've found a lot of success in the last few years actually increasing the visibility of those nonprofits. So we have a really, really big loudspeaker as a car dealership, and with the number of people we touch every day, the number of social media people we touch every day, and we can take a nonprofit such, I mean, one of our best shining examples is Nuzzles & Co., which is a small pet rescue up in Park City, and in the last 2-3 years, they've blown up. And we've really helped them in that regard of trying to get their name on the map and get people to understand what they do. And what they do is they rescue animals. They're not just a dog shelter off the street, a humane society, things like that. Not just a humane society is incredible too. We work a lot with them. But they actually go down to the reservations. So they actually go to reservations where 5, 6, 7 years ago, there were over 250,000 homeless pets running around those reservations every day. And they rescue them. And everyone they rescue that doesn't have another litter of pets, they're not only saving that animal, but they're saving dozens and dozens more. So they think they've got that population down under 75,000 in just under 5 years. And what we've been able to do is not only give them money, give them resources to do it, but we actually go down and do it with them. So we send 10, 12 Outbacks down there to help bring those cars back. My dad is a pilot, so he's actually a private pilot with his own plane, and he actually does plane flights. So the last 3 years, we're actually doing it again in about 2 weeks from now. We're doing our 3rd mission, and we do 2 laps down to the Navajo reservation down there and save 75 to 80 animals. And then those 75, 80 animals are adopted out, and it's cool to be able to use what we have as just a car dealership to do that. And the other nice thing about it is we've changed how we advertise. We don't advertise like a car dealership advertises. And everybody hates how a car dealership's advertised.
$99 down, $99 a month. Come on
This is what
in.
we're talking about, right? So if anyone's ever noticed a Mark Miller Subaru advertisement, we will never talk about price. It's not about price. It's about who we are and the experience we're going to give you. And what we've been able to use that through, especially with the nonprofit and the impact we've been able to create with it, is we've modified about 20 to 30%, thanks to Subaru and their willingness through Love Promise and everything like that. 20 to 30% of our advertising budget goes to nonprofits. And it goes in supporting their events for donations, bringing them in to be part of our events and things like that, which I'd much rather give 20, 30% of my advertising budget to a nonprofit where they're going to increase our community, help so many different people, than to a TV station or a radio station. And I think that's been a big impact of what we've been able to create, and it has a big impact on our employees and our company. What it does for our employees is we have one of the lowest turnover rates in the industry. I mean, our sales turnover rate last year, our Midtown store, was 4%. And the average car dealership, and Jay will attest to this, the average sales turnover rate in a car dealership is 100%. The average sales force in a car dealership turns over every year, and we turned over 4% last year. And part of that is because of what we do for the community and what we're able to create for the community, that people think it's more than a job. You're joining a family, and you're joining a family that's helping the world. And my marketing director puts it out there, buy a car, change the world. That might be a little too far, but I think we do go that way, and we do. And by putting that out there, a lot of our people truly believe that through what we can do, we can change the world, and we can change it one person at a time. You know?
I forgot to mention, I'm going to be the clock keeper here to keep us on time. So you did great. Go ahead.
To talk about best practice and the research we decide to take on, I'd like to give you a little bit background of the company and myself. Oh, okay. So my company, InnoSys, we actually develop and manufacture a key electronic components for radar and communication systems. And a little bit about myself. As a woman in this industry, I play the role of diversity throughout my career. And just to give you a little bit of statistics, when I entered into my first job, for the 12 years I was with that job, I was the only woman. And by the time I left, I was still, the woman. And then I become a business owner, and for the almost 19 years, I'm doing this business. I have not come to met a single female customer. It doesn't matter whether they are engineer or engineer manager or CEO or president. I have not met one. And so with that background, I should be very, very aware of diversity. However, it did take Safia come to our company and introduce this new group of diversity, Neurodiversity, to our company. And it took even more patience of our CTO, Dr. Larry Sawick, who is also in the audience. It took him even more time and patience to try to explain to me what's this neurodiversity group could do for us. And so I want to say, yes, I was slow in recognizing this group, but I'm pretty quick in realizing how important this new, diversity I just discovered could do for our industry. And since I introduced our company as someone develop and manufacture electronic components, so I believe you understand we are in science and engineering. So as connected as the world is, we all feel sad about somehow the world is still divided. It's often conflicted by different languages and different cultures. However, science and engineering and technology is different. It's theory-based. It's purely theory-based. So anyone can understand the theory, can be part of science and engineering and technology. And so as a result, the competition is the participation into science and technology is globally. And the competition, because the entire globe participated in science and technology, so the competition also came from the entire globe. So it's a highly competitive industry, and because it's made of diversity, so we need a diversity. So let me just give you an example I recently come across in my business, and to show you how diversity work in a workplace like ours. So as the female figure of the company, I won't blame you to think in terms of cleanup of the mess in the company, the job belongs to me. And I do often tell my employees, clean up after yourself. And so when they ask me what you mean by clean up, I told them that means put things away when you're done with that test or that experiment. And I didn't realize that was literally what they did. They put away, they pile things on top of other things to put away things. But recently, we had the pleasure to work with a young artisan employee, Peter. He was part of this new project of try to create a space for a new test. So he was part of this cleanup. And all the way from the beginning, he said, you cannot clean up without organizing. You got to organize before you clean up. And so, you know, for me, I kind of got used to my people's way of clean up, similar to my kids when they were teenager. You know, you found everything in the closet, but it looked clean outside. And so I did not take action right away. However, you know, Peter just keep at it. You know, for a month or so, the place looked so much messier. You know, I didn't see the space we need, but I see a lot of mess got moved around, and he started to separate, you know, organize things. And so, you know, for those you actually visit us within the last few months, I invite you to come back. Right now, we not only have that space we need, our place actually look orderly, clean. So I'm really happy with the results. And it does take two diversities to resolve this issue. And then this morning, while I was having breakfast, I was actually told by our CTO, Peter expressed his interest to be our warehouse guy. Although I still need to discuss more with our CTO what's meant by warehouse guy, but you know, it makes me so happy because it shows Peter found something he can do better than anyone else, and he knew it. He knew it. That was the most important thing. So with this said, I just want to again emphasize it's not just my interest in recruiting diversity. Neurodiversity is such an important element of our industry, and we want to make sure we have the best practice so we can attract them, we can keep them. And so comes to the best practice. I went right back to our neighbor and asked for help. I say that we need to, you know, develop something. So we actually come up with this program we call the Neurodiversity Education Employment Development Program. So it's called the NEED program. And so in the program, we started with helping the candidates understand what's the jobs required, and then we take them through some sort of education, practical training, and then we take them into actual employment. And every step of the way, we make sure there is some sort of assessment loop, so we know how are they doing and how are other people working with these people, how are they feeling? So we keep track of this and make sure this will become a strong support program, you know, to recruit and to keep these you know, young adults with autism. And so quickly jump to the research part. The communications has been, to me, has been the most difficult elements in diversity inclusion. Myself, as an example, early on in my career, I went to a meeting, and my coworker is the one in charge of the meeting. Before anything, you know, went on, he actually said this out of blue. He just told the whole audience, you know, why don't you? So he pointed at me. He said, why don't you, woman, go home and take care of little things and let us men stay here and discuss the big things. And so think about it. When we want to have a good communication, and when a comments like that was made, it made it difficult for me to say anything. And so I applied this to our neurodiversity employees. You know, it could just be some sort of off-mark kind of a statement by someone, not necessarily reflect how the organization is doing. But that itself makes the communication even harder, because I'm thinking, is my idea good enough? Should I say it? Will they even listen? And all
Jennifer,
these
we
things.
really do need to share.
Yeah, yes. So for this part to improve,
Just like home.
I'm a woman, right? So I like to talk. So for this part, we decide to take on the research, and we decide to use artificial intelligence, machine learning, to try to do the translation, for us in terms of the assessment, in terms of understanding what's the underlying currents when there's events going on, or there's some sort of project going on. How is everybody doing in that? And use it as a way to red flag any sort of moments someone like myself, as a supervisor, as a manager, need to actually reach out to talk to people. And so that's what we are doing in terms of research, and we are really excited about it. So our goal is trying to make sure the high-tech and manufacturing jobs are recognized by these neurodiversified individuals as a career choice, but we also want to provide the programs to make them succeed, to make them feel this is the place for them. And I welcome anybody has any other ideas or has feedback about our ideas, to give us suggestions and feedback. Thank you.
Safia.
So before I start with my remarks, I just want to say today is World Autism Day, and I would like to recognize and thank all of the parents, caregivers, mentors, teachers, and employers who have hired those with autism, and but especially to those with autism who are so brave every day. And no matter how they're affected, every day I just see how brave these individuals are. So just wanted to give a shout out to that population. And now I'm gonna start my timer. So corporate, am I? Okay, all right, I'll add a minute. Yeah, I'm burning, too late. So corporate social responsibility, it's a business approach that helps a company be socially accountable to itself, its stakeholders, and most importantly, the community in which it operates. When companies do this well and implement and practice corporate social responsibility, it operates in ways that enhance the workplace, which both Jennifer and Jeff have alluded to, the marketplace, and the communities where their employees live. Most CSR programs are conscious of the impact that they have on all aspects of society, and that includes economic, social, and the environment. Through CSR programs and traditional philanthropy, as well as volunteer efforts, businesses can benefit society while also benefiting their bottom line. So it is about helping society, but it's also about having your profits increase. So corporate social responsibility should be about core business concepts. It should be about how companies make their money and not an add-on and an extra thing that, oh, we need to do this. And that's exactly what Jennifer and Jeff were alluding to. And I should say the Larry H. Miller group of companies, it's how they do business. And it also happens to be a way to make more money. The companies that have failed to leverage the benefits of corporate social responsibility to tap into the market represented by individuals with disabilities are losing out. In 2018, there was an estimated 38 million people over the age of 16 with disabilities, and Carolyn, in the opening video, alluded to the amount of power that group has. In 2010, a paper was written that the spending power of this demographic was larger than the Latino, LGBTQ, and African American markets combined in this country. Marketing is a great place for companies to begin their strategy for tapping into the market of trying to attract the business of those with disabilities. But it's by no means the only way that they can align their corporate social responsibility CSR programs to include individuals with disabilities. The largest impact that companies can have on individuals with disabilities is to make a commitment to disability inclusion in hiring practices, as well as yielding their influence and resources to help build more inclusive communities as it relates to people with disabilities. And Carolyn said it again, if companies and big companies start hiring, and if they lead out with this, others will follow, and communities will then see that this is the way it needs to be. The influence of business cannot be understated. And she said 90% of companies have a diversity inclusion plan, and only 4% recognize disabilities as being a diverse condition that should be included in their inclusion plans. And so if we don't talk about it, so we need to talk about it, we need to recognize it, we need to talk about it, we need to become comfortable with it, then nothing is going to change. The fact that disability inclusion for the first time ever in 2019 was at the World Economic Forum at Davos was both wonderful but shocking that it took this long for it to happen. Carolyn's goal is to get 500 companies to commit to support this initiative in 1 year. Unilever, Accenture, Fujitsu, and Barclays were among the first to sign up. In Utah, Columbus is tackling the same issue on a much smaller scale. And we have got companies that have committed to hiring neurodiverse individuals. InnoSys is one of them, but we also have Pluralsight, Intermountain Healthcare, Vivint, Workfront, and L3. And Jennifer alluded to our partnership. And the thing that makes InnoSys so wonderful is they, out of the gate, took on someone through another one of our programs, Columbus Connects, a paid intern who had autism. And that didn't go so well for either party, for the employer or for the candidate. And we had to take a couple of steps back and realize that we misstepped, and that a key part of this is educating the employer. And we've got to find out, A, what the employers, what jobs they need filled, and then B, most importantly, is educating them about how to work with this neurodiverse population. Thankfully, Larry and Jennifer were willing to try again. I would say that is definitely not the majority, and is the exception. And we're so thankful that they are all in with this initiative of hiring neurodiverse individuals. So our relationship has now really blossomed. We have, Jennifer has been the PI on several government grants that we have submitted. And we're hopeful one of these grants is going to get funded, and it is specifically dealing with hiring, training, and working with the neurodiverse population. And it's replicable. So if it can be done here and done well, then it can be replicated in other science, technology, and engineering industries in Utah, but then nationwide. So again, we are so thankful to InnoSys for their commitment to doing this. And as Jennifer said, it's not charity.
That's the 1 minute warning.
That's my 1 minute. it's not charity, it's good for business. And using Peter as the example, he is the best at he is going to be the best at organizing, and I've been to their facility, and it's big, and there is a lot of stuff. And it's everywhere, and he is going to do fantastic organizing and sorting and getting this the way it should be. And it just happens to be that he also has autism, but he is going to do a really good job at this. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Beth.
Got two to choose from.
Yeah, both.
I'm excited to be here. Just so that you know a little bit more about me, I'm Beth Whisamore. I'm one of the executive directors of human resources for Zions Bancorporation. And I was asked to speak because of a pilot program that we ran several years ago in bringing diverse individuals, specifically individuals with disabilities, in through a pilot program. And Jamie was a part of that, and she'll speak more about it from her experience. But as I've tried to think a little bit about what I thought could be most valuable to you as a group in understanding that program and how I think it applies generally to hiring individuals with disabilities, we modeled the program after a very successful program that we've had at Zions for several years that Margarita Angelo has run that has focused on hiring individuals who are veterans. It's been an ongoing, how many years now, Margarita? Yeah, so we're 8 years, yeah? 8 years, and it brings in classes of individuals that are veterans and puts them through a 12-week internship program. What's unique about the program and why we used it as a model when we did this internship program was that it has different objectives in measuring success than what you might normally consider for a mentor program or an intern program. The objective of the program is to provide the employee with skills to be able to be hired, internally or externally. Either way, it's successful. That's the intention of the internship program. And so while the employee is given a meaningful 12-week job, a legitimate 12-week real job that they need to do for that entire time, the core essence of how we consider the program successful is whether or not at the end the employee has found full-time employment. And we use the resources that we have as an organization to help them to meet that objective. And that is mentoring. We have a lot of people who can mentor you. We have a lot of people who can help you with your professionalism. We have people who can help you with your presentation skills. We have people who can explain what networking really looks like. We have people who can practice networking with you. We have people who can informationally interview you. We can have you informationally interview with someone who you really do not want to interview with and have the experience of what it's like to interview with someone who's extremely intimidating to you. And that undercurrent of providing all this different support that a company can provide is what has made the Veterans Program so successful, because they are given this opportunity to be in an environment where someone can say to them, when you describe yourself that way, I don't understand what you mean. When you describe your success that way, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't translate to me. And the objective was to try to do the same thing with this other population that needed to transition into the workplace. Provide an environment where we could say, you can be more confident in describing this skill. Or when you describe this skill to me that way, it doesn't translate, but maybe if you said it this way, it would translate. And I think that that's the core learning from what we did, is that companies have a lot of resources available to them beyond just providing a job opportunity, right? You have a lot of mentoring and skill building resources that are available to you that can be used to help these any individual transition into the workplace. It could be someone transitioning because they've been out of the workplace for 10 years. I mean, you could apply it to any kind of population when you're trying to build your diversity, right? The other thing that I wanted to mention that I thought a lot about through the internship program with Jamie and with the other women who participated in the program is that they did need extra support. They needed extra support, but it was related to their confidence mostly. This from a skill level. Both of the women that participated in the internship program and were ultimately hired, they had the skills to work here. They weren't sure of their confidence in their ability to work here. They were nervous about their networking abilities and about their internship abilities. They were perhaps not as confident as they should have been about being able to articulate their strengths, which I think you'll see is definitely different now with Jamie. She's really progressed, and that's not one of her challenges anymore at all, I don't think. But I think that's a major opportunity for us as employers, as advocates, as people who work with individuals with disabilities, is helping them to be their best advocates. We recently had an experience where we had an employee start at the bank who, during her interview, was very articulate in explaining her learning disability and her challenges in understanding oral information, verbal information. She knew what she would probably need as an accommodation. She was able to explain it during the interview process, how it would work. After they selected her for the job, before she'd even started, they called to say, this is what she says she's going to need. We've never done something like this before. Can we do it? How does it work? Yeah, we can figure that out. Let's figure it out. And then as an employee, she has been very confident and articulate in saying, I'm going to record certain meetings. Here's how I'll use those recordings and how they'll help me and serve me. And it's in a lot of ways, because of her self-confidence, it's a bit of a non-event, right? Whereas, to be frank, we have lots of situations. My team manages all the ADA accommodations for the enterprise, and we have about 10,500 employees. We have a lot of situations where individuals cannot articulate what they need. And unfortunately, they start the interactive process very late. Maybe they've worked for us for a couple of years before ever disclosing that they need to participate in an interactive process and need some sort of accommodation. And so employers own that responsibility too, but I think there's a big opportunity there to continue to educate employers and advocates to help people with disabilities confidently express what they may need and the abilities that they have in relation to those needs. Okay. Jamie.
Yeah, I feel kind of weird talking into a microphone.
We'll give you her 30 seconds. We'll give you her 30 seconds that she didn't use.
Oh, wow.
That was a gift.
Well, when I get nervous, I talk really fast, so, it'll be okay.
We'll save it for question and answer.
More?
There you go.
Yeah, like you're like a rock star.
Like a rock star.
Like a rock star. Okay. So I am glad to be here today. I am definitely a lot less scared of people and nervous than I was 4 years ago. But still, there's a lot of people in this room. It's kind of scary, a little intimidating. But I'm Jamie, and I do feel a little bit unqualified still to be speaking to you guys today. I don't have any fancy titles or degrees or anything, but I have a story to tell, so I'll share it with you. I am going to tell you about some of the challenges I've been through in my life, my experience working with Columbus, and then getting my job here at Zions Bank. When I was a kid, I loved to be a kid. I loved to be outside. I spent a lot of time at my family's ranch on the weekends. I raised birds, have some animals and some dogs, and just love to have fun. When I was 13 years old, I was snowboarding, and my left hand stopped working. When your foot falls asleep, that tingly, numb feeling it gets, that's what happened. I just figured maybe I got some snow on my hand or something. I didn't really think anything of it. And later in the day, my hand wasn't working, but I just kind of ignored it. And my mom recognized it as a problem because she is a nurse, and she's like, "What's wrong with your hand?" And I said, it hasn't been working all day. And she said, "Okay, that's a problem. We need to get that fixed." So she called the hospital, and said I need to get an MRI for my daughter, and they said we have a 6-week waiting list. So that was not great news. But my grandfather died the next day of leukemia, and then coincidentally on the night of his funeral, an emergency MRI was called in for me. It's good to know people sometimes. So they did the MRI, and they said you have a mass in your brain and you can't leave the hospital. And things were not good at that time because I had just lost my grandpa to cancer, and I was like, oh no, do I have cancer now? They, over the next couple weeks, they, did a biopsy and found out what the tumor was and found out what they were going to have to do. They said it's inoperable, so we were looking into radiation and all that awesome stuff. And I have a very determined network of friends and family that were not going to accept it's inoperable diagnosis. And so they had a lot of family and friends in the medical field that just sat in the library at the hospital, and they researched until they found something that was going to work. It was a new procedure, relatively new, like within the past 6 months, that was for a similar tumor of a similar complexity, like in the same area, that they decided they would do. When I was being briefed about the surgery, so this was all in a 20-day time span. So I was snowboarding on the 4th of January, 2003, and it was removed on the 24th of January, 2003. So when I was being briefed about the surgery, they said, due to the complexity and location of this tumor, it was in the motor functions region, they said, you will likely be paralyzed when this surgery is done. That was very scary for me because I was that kid that loved to be outside and run around and play and, do all those things. So I was not prepared for that. As you can tell today, I am walking. It went a lot better than planned, but it did affect my whole left side, so it's a hemi-paralysis. I don't have any independent use of my left arm, and I've had a lot of problems with my foot. I used to walk on the side of my foot all of my teenage years. I had to wear this awful brace that came up to just below my knee, and the only shoe that it would fit in was a Teva sandal with the straps extended. So rain, snow, summer, in the ocean, it was, I wore it all the time. It was super fun. But it was obviously not as confident in myself then as I am now. And kids were mean. I was bullied, and that was, I couldn't really do anything about it, and I just wasn't confident enough in myself to stand up for myself, and so that was very hard. They were able to do a reconstructive surgery of my ankle where they just essentially put a brace on the inside. They fused all the bones and put in a plate and a bunch of screws, and now I can walk on it. It's really great. The first time I was able to walk on sand, I loved the beach, was not actually, because I used to either just hop across the beach on my right leg or kind of just limp through it, or when you get sand in your brace, it's not really great. Or my dad would carry me across the sand. But the first time I was able to walk on it, I was like, I'm alive again. This is great. Another thing that I suffered from this surgery was I lost some peripheral vision in my left side, which was a challenge in school because I had to relearn how to read again and do school. Because I'm missing a lot of, not all of it, but some of it. So having to move my eyes back and forth instead of just being able to see everything made going to school a challenge, and I just had to be patient with myself and take extra time to do things, but I made it through that. So I don't know. So I have done a lot of therapy to try and regain a lot of some of the use of my left hand, and none of it was very successful. But I have tried to do things to still use it. About a year ago, I started working with a personal trainer I felt like I was just really out of shape, which, I don't know, I just was like, I need to do something. And my trainer has helped me to do exercises that I can do to strengthen my left arm, not necessarily make it work again, but to strengthen it so that I don't lose any more muscle mass, because I've lost a lot of it, and it's like my hand is getting kind of, I have arthritis in my hand, and so you can tell. So I'm trying to regain some of the muscle and not just let it, continue to atrophy. But I want you all to know that just because I had this challenge in my life does not mean it stopped me from doing things. I still have been able to figure out how to snowboard again. I snowboarded with the National Ability Center for years when I was a teenager, and I still go out and work on my ranch on the weekend. I take care of my birds. They eat 50 pounds of food a week, and so I have to haul their 50 pounds of food into their cage every weekend. So I still, I don't know. I still feel like I am able to do things, but I don't know. Sorry, I lost my place. So, but I did wonder after all of this stuff happened to me if I would be able to enjoy things in life that other people do, because obviously it was different. I'm going to go ahead and use the word bullied in school because people did make fun of me for something I couldn't change or do anything about. I wondered if I would be able to go to college or get married or have a family or do, travel, enjoy life. And I did go to college. I did get my bachelor's degree from Weber State University. I did get married, and I still am able to enjoy life. When my last year of college, I did an internship with a company. It was more my practicum that related to my degree in family studies and education. And I thought that would be the job for me after I graduated, but I just didn't love it. So I started applying for jobs, and nothing was happening, and I just was like, I don't understand. This is what I know how to do, and none of it's working. So at that time, I was introduced to Columbus. I was introduced to Brenda Maxwell and Debbie Downs from Columbus, and they helped me work on some networking skills because I was really shy, and they helped me spruce up my resume, and I was then told about this internship program that Beth talked about at Zions Bank, and they thought I'd be a great fit for it. I applied for the internship and was accepted, and it was supposed to last for the 12 weeks that Beth said. About a month into the internship, there was a job opening in my department, which there isn't a lot of turnover rate in that department, but there was, and I decided that I really loved the people and loved the job and wanted to apply for it. At the time, the hiring manager said, we're very particular about the people we hire in this department because of the low turnover rate. He said, we're a family. Everybody helps each other out, and they're all different, but we need your personality to work with our family. And he said, we have liked what we've seen the last month, and so we would like you to be part of our team. My manager tells me daily that she doesn't have to worry about whether the task she's giving me is too hard or whether I'm not going to be able to do it, because she knows that no matter what, I'll figure it out. It's kind of like my life motto, you just figure it out. So you will never hear me say the words I can't, because there is always a way. And it really bothers me when people say, I can't do this. I'm like, you can. Just have a little faith in yourself. So I've now been working here in the trust department, one floor down. It was a really long walk up here. And it's been in my personal life, I've challenged myself to learn something new every day, whether that be a new skill or something about myself or what I'm able to do. So I've tried to apply that in my job by helping somebody out. Maybe, if they need something, then that's helping me learn something new, or just, learning something new about myself. And I am grateful that I was able to have these challenges in my life because I feel like they've helped me grow and learn. And I'm glad that I was able to be a part of Columbus and a part of Zions Bank. So thank you.
Thank you. And only an insensitive person would have set the timer off on that one, so I just shut it off. Jamie, thank you for opening your heart and touching all of us. I have just a couple of comments, and then we may have time for one or two questions. We're really over time, but we're under our hour, but we're over the agenda. But I want to touch on what Jeff said, and also kind of fold that into, the hiring of those with disability, whether that be physical or a new word I've learned today, the neurodisability, and giving back to the community. It's part of our social responsibility. That's really all that Gail lives for, and the team will come in and say, we have an opportunity to buy a dealership in Corona, California, or in Tucson, Arizona, or Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they'll look at it from a business standpoint. At the end of the day, Gail says, how much can I give away? And that's what and when we went through in 2008 and 9, when the economy was pretty bad, and we had some pretty because times were good in 6 and 7, and our dealerships and the sports team had really kind of overstaffed, and we had to lean up, and that was hard. And Larry probably wouldn't have been able to do that very well. But Gail went to Greg Miller, who was then the CEO, and she said, I know you got to do this. She said, but here's a number, and she wrote down a number. I still have to give this amount away every year. And so she said, you've still got to make a profit. And we made a profit every month except for one, as a whole group. And she continued to give back to the community. She believes, and I'm going to tie this in with Arthur Brooks. Don't know how many of you know him, but he's an economist, but he also was president and CEO of it's ASI. It's a think tank in Washington, D.C., and he just stepped down as president because he's doing some other things. But he read a quote from Rockefeller. It says, I'm rich because I give. And he said, as an economist, that's absolutely the most stupid thing I ever heard. He said, 4 minus 2 is not 6. It's 2. You're less. You have less. And so he took several years as an economist to study that and to interview philanthropists and entrepreneurs and successful businesses. And he wrote a conclusion that was, they're right. Those who give and those who give back are wealthier. He said, I don't get it. He said, he said, there must be some kind of higher power. And Gail believes that. And we came through 2008, 9, 10, and 11. Not only did we come through them, but we grew. We added 14 dealerships to our system. At that time, we were also able to strengthen and do other things. So giving back is part of your corporate social responsibility. But I think also in our hiring practices is the same thing. I observed last night, as I was at the Jazz game, one of our employees happens to be a manager over some of the ushers, and he's in a wheelchair. And one of the ushers was kind of having a little issue with a fan who was not happy, and he pulls up in his wheelchair. That fan's anger went way down. Your customers and your employees respond differently. And we even have, I go to a restaurant, it's a hamburger and fry restaurant, and they have an employee there who has some neurodisability. He comes out and wipes the tables, but he's so fun, and you treat him differently. And he doesn't do the best job of wiping the table, but you look past that, and we love going there just because he's there. And so I think that we enjoy that as well. And the Megaplex theaters and the Jazz, there's an employee that's been with us since we opened the doors of the Delta Center. His name is Gary, and and Larry even went to see Gary one time when he was sick and in the hospital. And out of 10,000 employees, that you can't do that a lot, but Gary meant that much to the family. So, any questions, comments?
So when I started calling companies, and this was cold calling mind you, to see and to gauge their interest in hiring our neurodiverse candidates. And I think the 2.8, 2.9, 3% unemployment has greatly helped us. Employers are looking anywhere to hire staff. I had one company say, I don't care if he's 3 feet tall, purple, and has a third eye. If he can do the job, I will hire him. So they were very receptive to this proposition, but very hesitant about not knowing how to do it. When I explained that we would provide the training and we would have job coaches and that we would help them through this process and not just have them do it on their own, they said, oh, then we're all in. So being able to provide them with the training and have us be there, I've had 100% participation. No one has said, no, we don't want to hire your job candidates. Now, they have to be able to do the job. So they have to be able to do the job. If they're making accommodations that they wouldn't make for other folks that would enable them to not do the job to their specifications, then that's a non-starter. But being able to provide this to companies, and we just see this growing. We see this original group of 5 and 6 companies. We'd like to pull in 5 and 6 every year so that we have a group of 50 companies in a few years.
I don't know. I was going to say, I just agree. Good answer.
Let's give a round of applause to our great panel.